Well, thanks for your feedback. I mean, it's always good to sort of hear what someone else thinks about your work. I was told recently that blue and green should never be seen, but that's kind of hard if you're painting a landscape and there's water in it. I suppose water doesn't necessarily have to be blue. If it's reflecting the sky and the sky's blue, then it... Anyway, so what next? I think that, well, I've got to just finish this painting project really, so I think it's important that I keep going with the process, which where I'm up to now is I've photographed them, so I need to just cut the paintings up, and then I'll just rebuild them and see how they look. Cutting up a painting, even though I don't like some of them very much, it's a bit hard to do. I keep putting it off because I suppose I've spent so much time on them. Even if I haven't spent the physical time on them, I've spent a lot of time thinking about them. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to cut them all up. But I'll keep going with that, and so for end of semester I'll have a series of crumbled up paintings, and I suppose it won't even be evident the amount of time that has been put into making these paintings, because to making these sculptures, because to get to the point of this sculpture, these particular images have run through this kind of process of formatting and reformatting, and I'm not talking about Photoshop, of course. I'm talking about from a film, so that's, I mean, it's someone else's work. I've taken that image, I've printed it out, then I've projected onto MDF board, painted it, photographed it, cut it up, rebuild it, and I don't know what else I could do after that. I suppose I could wood chip it and then put it on the garden and watch a plant grow or something. But yeah, maybe that is the end of the line, so maybe it's kind of a dud project to talk about process anyway. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so perhaps I can ask you what you think has influenced you to get to this point. So maybe you want to go back a bit to the sort of looking at illusion and all of those sorts of things, and just talk about how you got to this point, and then I'll just ask you a couple of quick questions regarding, oh, I just need some water, sorry, regarding just your personality type and things, and then we'll probably call it a day. It's better. Yeah, so just you can talk about, yeah, what's influenced you to get to this point so far. Yeah, so I mean, I just I tend to make whatever I need to make in order to kind of get the idea or the point across. So I'm really open to sort of all formats. So that in mind, I think that allowed me to make this work that's kind of talking about process, and that's probably why I was attracted to the idea of making in so many different formats. Things that influenced me were the Orson Welles film, F for Fake. Also, I read a book called How the Mind Works by Steven Pinker, and there's a really good chapter on the brain and the way that the brain sees, so the manipulation of ways to manipulate the brain's way of seeing, which was great because it, you know, that got me right into optical illusions and impossible objects, and the Ames room, which is, you know, it's all about playing with depth perception and just using those kind of modes. So they were really influential, and then, you know, I have some of my favourite painters, so I wanted to sort of reconnect with painting because I've been painting for about 2 years, and just sort of explore that side of just being allowing yourself to be lost in the process a bit again, rather than having to actively think so much about what you're doing all the time. And probably the final influence was how badly I felt I did last semester at school, and how kind of lethargic I was creatively. I mean, there was a whole lot of things that happened to kind of stop me from being a super engaged student. So I suppose in setting up this kind of big project with so many components, that was kind of a way of ensuring that I had plenty to do for the whole semester, because if I just followed this process that I'd set up for myself, or processing of making work, then I would be pretty occupied for quite a while. But it has, of course, locked me down I've been locked into this process, and I've used up so much of my time being part of this kind of machine that I'd set up for myself, and it's not even successful. And so what do I do with that? Well, I suppose I have this interview. So perhaps this interview will be the next great influence for me and my work. I don't know. Okay, well, here's hoping that it is. You can always upload this interview if you like to your blog, or you can YouTube it, or we're pretty open to any of that. Alright, well finally we just have the 2 profiling questions that we always ask all of our subjects. First one is, what is your star sign? And second one that we like to ask is, in the Myers-Briggs personality test, what is your personality type? Well, I have to admit I did know you were going to ask me those 2 questions. I do fortunately know the answer to both. I was born February 20th, so I'm a Pisces, except I have Aquarius rising. Well, I'm right on the cusp, sorry, so I've got Aquarius. It sort of depending, I was born in the morning as well, so I'm right on the edge. So depending on what day it is, I'm either emotional and fishy or weird. So that's my astrology, and this coffee's good. And Myers-Briggs would be INFP, except that again, that was all sort of really middle, it was right in the middle. So depending on what day it is, I might be E instead of I, so a bit extroverted. And also the last one, P, I might be a J sometimes. Instead of a perceptive, I might be judgment. Just, I mean, it's all teetering on the edge. Yeah. I've got to say, thank you for this opportunity, because just sort of talking about, your work and what you're trying to do with your work, and where you're at with your work, it can be really difficult to sort of to find anyone to have that conversation with, especially when you don't exactly know what it is. I mean, you know that you're stuck, but you don't know how to get around that, because you haven't exactly identified what the problem is, or if you've identified what the problem is, which I think I have, it's just about identifying where you go from there, like where you take it next. The problem for me, of course, was constructing such a strict process of making that I felt really locked in, and so I didn't know where to go from that. So it's really great to have the opportunity to talk to you, and then I think I'll take quite a lot away from this conversation, and then I'll be able to sort of approach the right people to talk about the next steps that I need to make. So it's been really helpful, and I'll keep you posted on what I make next. Thanks.